Right, so I've been away for the 2 weeks that we've started the BMW run and ride, and I kind of feel like I was duped a little bit. It says duathlon, and it's actually run, cycle, run. I thought it was like run and then cycle. It turns out you've got to run, get on the bike, get off the bike, and run again. So it's essentially a triathlon, Dave. I feel a little bit duped. The one thing that I'm actually definitely going to be able to do, though, is the cycle. And I'm delighted to say Michael Black is the cycling coach with Triathlon Ireland here to give us some hints and tips. Michael, good morning to you. How you doing?
Morning, boys. How are you getting on?
You would think that running and cycling are fairly similar, but actually anybody who has waddled off the bike and realised that everything is seized up after a cycle, it's not the case. Why is this so mechanically different when they look so fairly similar?
Yeah, it is. It has a different kind of training stimulus. Obviously, running obviously is a lot more intense. Your bones and your muscles or everything is getting the demands from the pavement on the ground or whatever surface you're running on. So it's a lot more physically challenging than being on the bike. Being on the bike, your weight is bared on the bike, very similar to swimming. So you're not taking that abuse that you would normally get from being on the road. So that's why. And as you said yourself, that duathlon aspect of it, when you get off the bike and try and run, it's not a pleasant experience, especially if you've went pretty hard on the bike previously and then trying to run fairly hard off the bike. So it's just that different type of training stimulus. But if you go hard on anything, it'll hurt pretty much no matter what you're on.
Is there actually a different way of training for the cycling in a triathlon when you know you have to do the run after it than there would be if it was just a pure cycle race?
Yeah, there is a certain element of pacing in any kind of multi-discipline or multi-sport activity like that. So, yeah, typically the strong bikers would push the bike pretty hard because they know that's their discipline and they can gain a lot more time on it. But they have to be well aware that they have to run off the bike. So, the training doesn't really change that much until you get into the real racing end of things, when you start to talking about times and distances and really getting down to the nitty gritty of trying to pace yourself so that you can get the best out of yourself once you go onto the run. But typically, no, it's much the same type of training, especially at beginner level.
We've been getting a bit of advice about the running, and everybody was apparently going out and running too hard and too fast. So
yeah,
the kind of same pace on each training run, but actually the advice is to go slow, fast, and do one fast one every 3 or 4 goes.
Yeah.
So that, like, I don't know what that's called, if that's a form of period.
No, it is. Yeah, there is certain elements, kind of interval training, or you've got, I suppose you can look at it in terms of periodization, where you're trying to break your week or your month or your year into certain elements of different types of fitness that you're working on. But yeah, it's an endurance sport. No matter what the distance is, you're going to be on the bike and running and everything else for, could be upwards of an hour or even more. So it is typically an endurance sport. And if you're not haven't got that experience of coming from an endurance background, you're going to have to build up that cardiovascular fitness just to be able to get used to the distance that you're and the time that you're on your bike and on your feet after the run. So yeah, generally people start off way too hard and just gas themselves out, so they're busted by the time they even come to even doing the run. Or even if you hear maybe some people talking about bonking on the bike or hitting the wall in a marathon, it's that type of feeling where you've just nothing left, and that generally is down to two things. Maybe nutrition's bad, but more so that you've went too hard at the start and you just don't have that fitness yet to be able to go at that speed. So slowing down a little bit at the start, you'll find yourself warming up. You'll find yourself getting a lot more used to the pace, and you can actually start, funnily enough, enjoying it. Maybe you guys aren't at that stage yet, right enough, but with the weeks and months that come on, hopefully you will start to enjoy it a little bit.
Michael, is there a way, Ger referenced getting off the bike there and everything seems like it's seized up, and for some people who are maybe getting on the bike for the first time or for the first time in a long time, is there a way to mitigate the effects of being in that lock position where you're slightly hunched over, your hands are on the handlebars and your body isn't necessarily moving outside of your legs? I tried to get on the bike a good bit over the course of the lockdown because my knees were starting to hurt from a little bit of running. How can we mitigate that? Because it stopped me getting back on it. My back was starting to seize up.
Like, I suppose there's two things that, one, you're going to get a lot more used to it the more times you practice it, which, sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but the more times you do it, you will get used to it. But secondly, a lot of it is about, your mobility and your own flexibility and stuff being on the bike. So again, make sure you're sitting on your bike and fitted on the bike properly. So even taking your bike to your local bike shop and actually telling the guys in there, can you just check me over to make sure I'm actually positioned on this bike correctly? Is my seat okay? Is my handlebars okay? And that will take out any kind of doubts that you might have that it's not just you. It could be I'm just not sitting on the bike properly. And then a little bit of flexibility and mobility yourself. So working on your lower back especially. So stretching that lower back out as much as possible when you're off the bike. And even your hamstrings and your quads and your hip flexors. So any general kind of stretching type program that you could do every day will massively, massively help your comfort on the bike. And when you get off the bike, even the most experienced people are going to find it really hard. You get that jelly legs type feeling where your brain tells you want to go, but your body's saying not a hope here. I'm not going any further type thing.
Yes.
And you try and put your leg forward and it just doesn't go where it wants to go, and you feel you're going to fall on your hands and nose. So you do get a lot better at it. I find that once you get off the bike, the quicker you can try and get into your running pattern, the better. So sometimes that means for the first, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, putting that wee bit more effort in first and trying to get back into your natural stride. If you keep it very, very short and contained, you're only just going to stick to that type of short levers and short muscles and everything. So try and extend your running as much as you possibly can when you get off the bike into your stride, and keep things moving as much as possible. And I find that you get a lot more bang for your buck once the distance starts to get longer and longer. But you will get used to it. But it's not a pleasant experience for the first couple of minutes when you jump off the bike and try and run, for sure.
What about the actual cycling itself? Is there a difference in the body position? Like, where should you grip your bike on your handlebars? Like, what is the most efficient and what is the best way to do it?
Yeah, and that comes back to obviously your bike fit. Once you get your bike fit done there, typically you've got your two hands just sitting on your two hands in front of you, your back of your hands facing up to the sky, more or less. That's probably the most upright position. It may not be the most aero position. You're going to be taking a lot of wind in that, but it's typically the most comfortable. As you get used to it, and as I say, you get your back loosened out a bit, you can move on to the drops, which is if you're on a road bike where you've got the handlebars kind of curved at the front, you can kind of move your hands down there a little bit closer to the brakes. It's a little bit more aero, so you're not taking as much wind and you might go a little bit faster, but it does take a little bit of mobility and flexibility, and you might not be as stable down there as you are when you have your hands up there. If you're on a hybrid on a mountain bike, you'll typically have just your handles on the standard position the whole time. But it's really about the personal preference. Whatever's comfortable to you. You're better getting comfortable first, and you're going to push a hell of a lot harder and feel a lot more comfortable rather than trying to gain, 5-10% and getting a wee bit more aero, but you're absolutely busted just trying to stay in that position.
Yeah, and I presume pins and needles aren't great.
No, pins and needles is not. No, sometimes you tend to find it maybe in your pinch points around your ankles, around your wrists. If you're getting that, or even in your toes and things. It's generally down to bad either position that you're on the bike or bad fitting equipment, so your shoes or your shorts. And that's another thing. Like, if you can invest in a really good pair of shorts, it'll be the best investment you make in terms of a bike outside of getting it serviced and looking after it. If you've got a nice padded pair of shorts that you think are massively expensive at the time, it's the best buy you can definitely get. Your backside is going to be, it's going to be sore for a little while until you get used to being just on that position on the saddle. So a nice pair of comfortable fitting shorts is a very, very good investment if you can. We're
all doing the sprint distance. How far should we be going at this stage? So it's a 20k cycle, a run, a cycle, and then the sprint is going to be 20k. So I'm actually doing 20k most days at the moment, and it's okay.
It's fine, like that's the thing, yeah, and I said that to a couple of people before, just, treat this like a bit of a training. You'd be very surprised at the distance that you can achieve in that. But split your week up. If you find it very comfortable doing 20k, maybe at the weekend, push it out to maybe another 10k extra at 30k. But again, just look after your pace and, try and enjoy, the scenery around you, being out, and you'll get a longer type cycle. So that'll make your 20Ks a little bit easier. Then if you just keep going to the one distance all the time, that'll be your limiting factor, and you'll find that that'll be the hardest, just to break past that barrier. So break past that barrier and go a little bit further. Don't even worry too much about the distance. Just go for time. Just say, I'm going to go for a couple of hours here. Stay in a nice safe loop. So if you do get a little bit tired, you can bail out halfway through if you think you're getting tired. But the bike gives you so much freedom, and what the areas you can explore are fantastic, and it gets you outside your borders where you normally just walk or drive to. And then you can put a little bit of fast one in if you want during the week. If you're doing 20k, simple warm up for 5k. Do a little bit harder for 5k. Go easier then for 5k, and then push the last 5k hard. So it just breaks it up a little bit into a little bit of intervals. And what that will do, it'll make your 20k at the very end feel a lot easier, because you've actually worked past your supposed limit from the previous ones. So as much as you can mix it up as much as you can, but again, just treat it like training, and you're naturally going to get fitter over the 6 weeks, and the 20k will be no problem to use and end up.
Well, I hope you're right, Michael. Good stuff. Good, clear advice for us there. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.